Welcome to Machine Tool Maniacs, the podcast where machining, fabrication, entrepreneurship, and bringing ideas to life collide. Around here, every story is a success story. I'm Matt, a second-generation manufacturer who's been in the shop since I was in diapers, learning the tools, the trade, and the people behind it all. Nearly everything in our daily lives is passed through a CNC machine. And we're here to spotlight the makers turning raw material into reality. Whether you're dreaming big or building bigger, this is your inside track to making it happen. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have with me Bailey Shank, but you all might know him as Pizza Boy Metalworks. Introduce yourself, Bailey.
I think you did a pretty good job of doing that for me. My name's Bailey. I'm 30 years old. I'm from Manheim, Pennsylvania. So for those of you that don't know where that is, because it's in the middle of nowhere, if you've ever had any Hershey's chocolate, I'm about 25 minutes from Hershey, 35 minutes from Harrisburg, an hour and a half west of Philadelphia. And I like machining and race cars.
And you used to like motocross, right?
I I still enjoy watching motocross, but my body cannot handle it any longer. So kind of got
Yeah,
out of that a couple years back.
that's what happens getting old. Where is your shop? Is it in your garage?
It is a
What's your
garage
current
shop.
setup?
My parents have a 25 by 50 detached shop that I have access to about half of, and that's, 50 feet from their back door. And I'd like to say I'm not 30 years old living at home, but I kind of sold the house that I owned to start this business, so I'm kind of making do with what I can at this point. And I mean, my parents are they're great. They're great people. And they've been very helpful in that regard. They have not been I have not had like the handout or the hand up financially that a lot of people have gotten from their parents. And if you have gotten that handout or hand up from your parents, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not how it's gone for me. But they have been gracious enough to say, "Hey, here's some shop space that you can use for the time being." And I mean, it cost me a couple $100 a month plus the propane and the electricity to run everything. But um, yeah, it's right in the backyard, so it's been very helpful.
Well, and one of the reasons I really would want to have you on this episode, and I really want to talk about the sacrifices and the struggles of starting your own shop, and especially the way you're doing it, I think is incredible. So, major credit to you for, like you said, you sold your house. It sounds like you were on a path before, and now you've kind of taken a step back to build something on your own. And I think this can provide a lot of value for anybody listening to this podcast episode who might want to walk in similar shoes. Sometimes to move forward, you got to take a couple steps back. And it could possibly mean an entire career change.
Right.
Maybe selling a house so you can buy a few pieces of equipment in the hopes and dreams of building something bigger. And it sounds to me like that's what you're doing. So we're going to be covering that a little bit more later on in this episode. One of the first things that I want to talk about is the fact that you still work a full time job on top of building a shop. Is that correct?
That is correct. I guess this is kind of, I mean, I told you that when we had like our little preemptive call, strategy call yesterday, but that's not something that a lot of people really know or realize. I don't really broadcast it, I guess, but I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit it. A lot of people think this is my full-time job, and as much as it feels like it is, some days I do go work 8 hours for somebody else um, before I come home and work on this, and then I have evenings and weekends to do this. But I'm actually not in machining full time anymore. I was working for a shop. I've been in the field since 2013. I graduated in 2015 from Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology, which is a local trade school here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Last I knew, it was only open to residents of Pennsylvania, but that may have changed in the last, 10 or 11 years. Um, I started working as soon as I mean, I had always worked, but I started working in the field as soon as I started school. I worked for a very large um, corporate company in a production environment. Very quickly realized that there wasn't a whole lot to learn there. They were just doing the same sizes of the same parts or different sizes of the same parts over and over again. And once you figured out all of the tips and tricks to that, it made for a very boring 12-hour overnight shift. So I took a step back in pay to go work for a local job shop that did a lot of aerospace and defense, and I think they did a little bit of medical stuff too.
Hmm.
And I did a paid internship there, and then that turned into full-time employment upon graduation. And then I was there after graduation. I was there for about 6 months, and I had purchased my house in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I moved out there for a little over 4 years. Worked for a job shop out there, doing all sorts of large parts. Um, if you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or anything, I do have lathes. I have a lathe and a mill currently, but I was never a mill guy. I always did a lot of lathe work. So I did
Really?
lot of large lathe work. Like if I touched anything smaller than like 2 feet in diameter, it was a big deal, and a rare occasion. So I worked there for just over 4 years. The guy that I worked for was an entrepreneur. There were 9 of us in the shop, and 4 of his employees were his 4 sons. So I learned so much in that shop, but there was a fair amount of, the small business and the family owned business um, arguments. And, looking back, I would not be where I'm at in my career if I did not take that chance and go work for him. His name is Willie. I'm still in contact with him to this day. I text him every now and then and just update him on what I'm doing. And every time I buy a new machine, he's the first person I send pictures to on delivery day. And he's he's a great coach. He's a great mentor and just an all around good dude. But
That's
when I
good.
left there is when I sold my house. I moved back to this area of the state. I moved back to take this job like a month before COVID shut the whole world down. And Pennsylvania was pretty tight on restrictions for probably a year and a half or more. So, in that year and a half, my house did not get sold, it just sat idle. And then I decided I was going to sell that house, and I put that money into buying equipment and attempting to start my own thing. And so far, so good.
To backtrack a little bit, I'm quite surprised actually that you're a lathe guy. I just judging by your content and how much of it is primarily on your little mill you got, I would have thought you were a mill guy.
Well, I'm glad that I at least had you fooled.
Yeah, you got me fooled, man.
Yeah, I learned something new every time I turned that machine on. The last time I had run a CNC mill before I bought my Super Mini 2, which was my first Haas mill that I bought that in 2021.
Hmm.
The last time I had touched a mill before that would have been when I was in trade school. So that would have been 2015.
Wow.
I mean, I did a little bit of like proto-track milling stuff here and there, but not anything like full G code based and not anything. Yeah, I don't know. I like the Haas equipment. I know that might not be the most popular opinion, but for the type of stuff that I'm doing, it holds the tolerances that I need it to hold. It gives me the surface finishes that I want. and they're cost effective. And anytime I have an issue, I can generally pick up the phone and they have a guy here the next day. So,
Yeah, no, and Haas, their controls are they're built for Americans. That's for
yeah.
sure. So when it
Yes.
comes to logic and functioning the way that the American mind works, Haas is built for that purpose. So if for nothing else, they definitely deserve an immense amount of credit for that. Did you always run Haas's in these other shops that you worked at?
The place that I worked, the small place that I worked in Pittsburgh, he was all Haas equipment at that point in time.
Hmm.
I think he has started to upgrade to Doosan or DN Solutions, whatever they go by now.
Hmm.
Um, Next time I talk to him, I'd like to pick his brain a little bit as to why he's gone that way. I'm not sure if he's gotten into a little bit more precise work. And it's not that the work that we were doing when I was there wasn't precise. Like when I'm telling you I was doing stuff that was 2 feet in diameter, that's 2 feet in diameter with a like plus nothing minus 8/10 tolerance on the diameter. Like we were doing really precise large parts, but I'm not sure what his reasoning was for switching. But I ran all Haas stuff there when I was at the place before I moved to Pittsburgh. I ran the one lathe was a Hitachi, I believe, and the other one was a Morisiki. And then before that, the production environment I was in, those were Doosan Puma 2400s. So that's all FANUC control stuff for the most part. I can't remember what control Mori uses. That was a long time ago. Um,
If it just depends on the generation. They could
okay,
they've Mori Seek was it an SL or an NL? Do you remember?
think it was an NL.
It might have had a Mitsubishi base control on it. They're very much Fanuc styled though. They
Right.
kind of did the front end so they're
Yeah,
like
that
Fanuc. So
that machine was ultra precise for what it was, and we were doing all. I would love to have something like that. I don't have a slant bed lathe in the shop yet.
mhm.
That's a goal of mine to add at some point, but that one it just seemed like it would hold a tenth or two all day long, and you didn't have to ask a whole lot of it. So that was a good machine for sure.
Yeah, they're good machines. Same with the Hitachis. I don't know what kind of experience you had on your Hitachi. My dad had a Hitachi Siki, and it was a really good machine in its day.
That machine, that was another large slant bed lathe, and um that was also ultra precise, but the turnover at that shop was kind of high, and they ran a day shift and a night shift, and I think that machine was slammed more times than anybody could count. So
Mm,
it would hold tolerance, but you definitely had to make sure that you swept in your drill pockets and make sure the turret was aligned and everything. Like it seemed like people would slam it and not tell anybody that they slammed it. But I mean, I we've all been there, and you're lying if you said that you haven't been there. I make mistakes every day, and I had a kid here shadowing me 2 weekends ago, and that was the biggest thing that I told him. I was like, "Look, you're going to make mistakes." He's trying to decide if he wants to get into the field or not, and
hmm.
I said, "You're going to make mistakes, but the biggest thing that you can learn is that you learn from the mistakes of people around you, and when you are the one that make the mistake, you learn how to not make that mistake again, and hopefully somebody's around you that they can learn something from it, because we're all human, we all mess up, and it's it's very important to learn from those mistakes and move forward versus sitting around and dwelling on them. And I mean, I told a story. I'm not sure if you saw it on TikTok the other week. I just kind of put out a post saying, "Hey, I want to hear your biggest mess up in the machine shop." And I'm not talking like, "Oh, I broke 3 taps in the same part." I'm talking like, "I should have been fired for this." And the guy that I worked for in Pittsburgh, we had some investment castings in the shop. This haunts me to this day.
Hmm.
This was probably 7 or 8 years ago now, but we had investment castings in the shop, and they were for some sort of glass mold. It was some weird alloy called HR30. I can't find anything on it when I Google that, so I'm not sure if it's some proprietary. It was like some weird bronze alloy. And because it was a glass mold, they got polished to a mirror finish. Well, we had two different sets of them in, and they were similar shapes, different sizes. And I'm not sure what happened. I was told, hey, go grab this drawing. And again, I don't know if I missed that both drawings were there. I'm not sure if I'm not trying to make excuses. I grabbed the wrong drawing and I cut an entire, I think it was like 2 dozen parts to the wrong drawing, and
Oh
nothing
no.
nothing dawned on me like, hey, this program's starting in the wrong location. Nothing. I was just like, oh, that's weird. I machined the entire first operation to the wrong drawing to the tune of like $50,000 in material.
Oh gosh.
So, I mean, I should have been fired for that. And the owner of the shop was less than happy. And like, I mean, I got chewed up one side and down the other, but I haven't made that mistake again. And I
Hmm.
mean, he should have fired me, but it's one of those things where he he showed me grace, and if nothing else, I learned how to show others grace through that experience. But no, that was one of those days you get in the car and you drive the whole way home with no music on, and it was not a good day.
You don't even hardly remember the drive home itself because you're
No,
just kind of in that headspace. Yeah, I've been there.
yeah.
I've been there in my own dad's shop. He probably should have fired me too. I similarly, I scrapped a bunch of brass castings, probably not nearly as expensive as the ones that you were you did, but they I scrapped a lot of them. It was quite a few, and I I think I missed a dimension or something. I remember something was too thin, or I don't know.
Dude, it happens to
It
all of
happens.
us.
Hmm. So let's backtrack a little bit. What got you into CNC machining?
Okay, well, that's a pretty good one because you had mentioned I raced motocross when I was in like middle school and high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do after high school. I had the grades that I probably could have gone to pretty much any school that I wanted to in the country, but just because you're good at school doesn't mean that you want to go to school. And I was looking for any way out of high school, but obviously, like, don't drop out of high school. If you're young listening to this, do not drop out of high school.
Don't drop out of high school.
It is the easiest certification or a diploma that you can get. So I did not drop out of high school. But the Thaddeus Stevens, where I went to college, um, there were a couple people in the machining program there that had gone to my high school, and the one was the son of the shop teacher. So the shop teacher was naturally kind of trying to push people like, hey, you should go check this school out. So I'm like, okay, we'll go check it out. And the professor of the machining program was actually from my hometown as well. So I went to tour when I was in 11th grade, and he's like, oh, cool, you're coming next year, right? And I was like, no, I'll only be a senior next year. And he's like, yeah, that's not what I asked. You're going to come next year, right? And I was like, if you're telling me that I can skip my senior year of high school and get a year of college under my belt, I am all in. And I went and enrolled, like, did all the enrollment testing and stuff as soon as I could. Got accepted to the school and accepted to the program. But now we had to go back and lobby with the school board about, hey, you need to allow these kids to do dual enrollment if they so choose. And that was, I'm not a political guy, but I'm not not into dealing with the school board more than I have to because that was kind of a headache. And then once we got all of the legwork done with that, I think there were four or five other kids in my class that decided they were also going to do dual enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
So, got a lot of kids out of their senior year of high school that year. And now I think that's just something standard that they offer from that high school. But yes, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I might want to get into welding or join the Air Force or go to law school. I probably would have went for a business degree and then went back for law. I don't know. My life has taken some really weird turns over the last 15 years or so, and I know that sounds crazy coming from somebody that's only 30. You make plans and God laughs is what I like to say.
Yeah.
I was into racing motocross, not so much into cars at the time. And then somebody said, "Oh, well, if you go for machining, you could make all sorts of motocross bike parts." And I was like, "Yep, I'm sold." And then when they told me I didn't have to go to my senior year of high school, I was like, "Yep, sign me up." So that's how I got into it. And then I did nothing motorsports related with it until I started my own thing in 2021, 2022. That's how I got into machining. I got into it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then it turned out that I really enjoyed it. So I just kind of stuck with it. I might not do it forever, but I enjoy it and it pays me a decent living for now. So I'm just going to continue to stick with it.
It's a lot of problem solving. That part of it is
I think
attractive.
that's the addicting part of it to me is that it's always that's why I like the job shop stuff because it is always something new. And I guess the same could be said for like prototyping and like one-offs and stuff like that, which I know that was another topic you wanted to get into.
Hmm.
But yeah, just the problem solving. I think what I like most about the mill is the fixturing because that's a set of problem solving in and of itself. Um, Whereas the lathe, like a lot of the time you're just using either a three jaw chuck or a four jaw chuck. And if you're using anything different, it's generally some variation of a two jaw that gets like you're only using two jaws of the four jaw, and those two jaws are set up as a fixture. But there's a lot more. I mean, I can't speak to like the guys that are doing all the crazy Y axis lathe stuff. Like I have a tool room lathe, so it's X and Z, and that's it. A lot of the lathe stuff is pretty straightforward. I don't have any mill turn experience. I don't even have any fourth or fifth axis milling experience. Like my machine shop is as basic gets for a CNC machine shop as far as three axis mill, two axis lathe.
For years, that's all most machine shops had.
I have a fourth axis that I'm, slowly teaching myself. It's just something I've never touched, so it's something that I'm kind of slow to pick up. And then like I've had a couple people reach out and be like, "Hey, is this something that you can do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how much of a hurry are you in?" Because I'm still trying to learn that. Like I'm very honest about I'm kind of in a space right now where this is getting busier and busier, and I'm starting to be more and more selective about the custom work that I'm taking on just because I would like to take this full time at some point. It's a lot to juggle right now with working full time and running the shop on my time. I listen to a lot of Andy Frisella, and he'll say that, yeah, well, work life balance is a myth. And to an extent, he's correct. I've had a couple situations where I'm like, this extra money is nice and this is cool that it's growing and like that's always the goal, but at some point you need to be sure that you prioritize your health, both physical and mental. You need to make sure that you have enough balance where your relationships and your friendships are not suffering. And that's actually something that I struggle with a lot and I'm not proud of. I'm really good at locking myself in the shop for the entire weekend. And then, oh man, I kind of missed a couple things that I said that like I never gave like a hard, oh yeah, I'll be there, but that's a rant for another day.
It's also deciding what you're worth, like your
Right.
personal value and your time. And I
Right.
think we'd all love to just give freely to everybody as much as possible, but There's just only so much bandwidth that each of us have. That is part of life, just learning to juggle the things that are important with the things that have to be done with the things that we want to do. And so it's not necessarily a go hard and shut up, but as much of a it's a respect thing, right? Learn to respect yourself and your own personal time and where you need to be putting your energy to get the most, I guess, bang for your buck.
Right. I'd like to piggyback off that. The respecting yourself thing, I do all of my marketing on social media, mainly Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. A little bit on Facebook, but that's just Instagram auto posting to the Pizza Boy page on there for me. It has been very good. It has. I made a video about my marketing strategy about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'll just real quick. My entire marketing strategy is just doom scrolling my For You page. And anytime somebody's building something cool, like a cool car or a motorcycle or something, I'll comment on it and I'm like, hey, if you ever need any machine work, please let me know. And that's how I've claimed the majority of my custom clients. But the problem with social media is it gives everybody access to you, which is it's a blessing and a curse. Brick and mortar businesses have business hours. You can't just show up and bug the receptionist or the whoever's there if they're not open. Whereas social media is 24/7 and I struggle to stay off of my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have people that I've been getting better at it. Like, hey, I'm done on my phone after this time, and I will answer any emails, texts, messages, whatever tomorrow. But you have these people that will message you at, and I don't want to say it's everybody, but there are a fair amount of people that will message you at all hours of the day, and then they get frustrated with you that you don't respond in 45 seconds. I'm like, brother, that's just not how it works. Like, you can't expect me to be on my phone 24/7 when I've already made it very clear. I'm working full time and then I'm coming home and programming, setting up, running. Okay, now I got to remember to eat. Now I got to shower. Now I got to make time for other things. And there has to be a balance there somewhere. And that's just social media has been great, but there's a lot of people out there who are also impatient. And the funny part about them being impatient is they'll be impatient with you and you will finally get back to them. And then they'll ask for a quote or something and you'll hit them with a price and they're like, well, that's too expensive for me. And, that's fine. I'm a big supporter of the good work's not cheap and cheap work's not good. Don't get all frustrated and huffy with me and then tell me that you don't want to pay what I'm asking to, because I try to be reasonable with people too. That's my rant for the day on social media.
We might be jumping ahead here, but it's a good segue into the world outside of manufacturing and specifically machining doesn't understand. They seem to have this interpretation that you can almost sometimes just shoot with your imagination a part into the machine and it'll produce it. They don't understand the amount of effort it takes to figure out how to make a part, how to hold on to the part, what operation to do first, how to hold tight tolerances. There is just so much that goes into developing, making a part that it is extremely difficult and typically extremely expensive. And 99% of the machine shops out there just don't touch prototype low volume work because it's so difficult to make your money back when you're just making one offs because that is unpaid time. It's the engineering costs, so to speak, that you don't really get paid for the development of the process. Most machine shops, they are essentially developing the process for free when they're quoting a part and plan to make their money back on the back end when they make 10,000 of them. So it's a very difficult area to navigate. And especially you want to help people out and you want to see these cool projects come together. I can probably empathize with how this kind of makes you feel torn sometimes because you want to help these people make their custom throttle body adapters or whatever I've seen you make in the past. Once again,
Right.
it's a balance of, well, I got to make something too. Like I can't just work for free.
Quick pit stop. If you're enjoying the show, hit subscribe and drop a rating. It helps more machinists and makers find us. Tell a friend. Tell your crew. Tell the guy running the second shift. Follow me along on social media at machine_tool_maniac for thoughts, updates, and some funny memes. We're growing this community with more guests, more value, and more stories that push people to create. So if you've got a niche product getting manufactured or a shop with a cool story, email me at machinetoolmaniac@gmail.com or check out the website machinetoolmaniac.com for merch. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, there's 2 points I'd like to speak to here. You said there's not a lot of people that understand the cost and the engineering and setup and fixturing and everything that goes into stuff. The people that I have found to be the hardest to work with when it comes to quoting and explaining how we're going to go about the process to take something from a 3D file to a billet part is the 3D printing community that has no other engineering or machining experience beyond the $300 3D printer that they bought at Best Buy or wherever. And that's not a shot at 3D printing. I think there's a good place for it in manufacturing. I don't know a whole lot about the metal 3D printing stuff. I think it's very interesting and it's definitely got its place with some of the weird geometry stuff. But I get frustrated when I try to explain to somebody like, "Hey, this part that you asked me to machine, somebody somewhere can probably machine it for you, but I can't." And then you get the, well, my $300 3D printer did it. What do you mean that your $100,000 worth of equipment won't do it? And when you're going additive manufacturing, you're going bottom up, right? So you can build your support structure and everything along with the part as you are producing it. Whereas subtractive manufacturing or CNC machining, you're starting with a chunk of material and you are chiseling that away, cutting it away, whittling it away, whatever word you want to use there, to your finished part. And sometimes because you are starting with a block of material versus just finishing with a finished part, you run into tool clearance issues, you run into machine geometry issues, things like that. And that's something that not everybody understands or even thinks about when it comes into when it goes between 3D printing and machining. And then to speak to your point about a lot of these shops are developing the process for free and look to make their money on the back end when they're mass producing something. That's where I run into issues all the time. I'm not sure if you saw the billet steering wheel that I did for a gentleman in Texas. He reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I'm going to send you this steering wheel that I have for my car. I would like a billet aluminum one, but I want it to be the same diameter, same shape, same spoke shape, everything. But I wanted to have a flat bottom." So I had to think about how I wanted to do this based on the equipment that I had access to and whatever. We ended up making it round, cutting the bottom off of it, and then making a second, like the flat bottom part, and bolting it up into the wheel on both sides. And then where it connects to the center spoke, we welded it from the backside and just blended the weld out. And then I sent it to him and he's going to get it leather wrapped. I was very proud of how that came out. I made a long form video of it. It's on YouTube if you'd like to check that out. I had a lot of people come out of the woodwork saying, "Hey, I want one of these. Hey, I want one of these." And I don't think I'll build another one because I know what he paid me for it, and he agreed to pay for it. He knew it wasn't going to be cheap up front, but I definitely cut him a serious deal because between the design work, the programming, the figuring out how I'm going to fixture it, and figuring out everything else, if I would have charged him hourly, that steering wheel probably would have been every bit of $4,500 or $5,000. Nobody's going to spend that on a steering wheel. So I had to be like, hey, man, here's where I'm at. I want to do this project because it's cool, but this is a one-time only deal. And he was okay with that. Then I've had a lot of other people say, hey, I want one of those. And I'm like, I don't think that you do because I won't make another one for the price that I made this one for.
There's probably a lot of folks, especially in the car world, they might look at something that was, say, built by Chip Foose or Kindig, and you'll hear how much these cars, you're talking a car that not only has custom steering wheel, but custom machine valve covers and custom machine headlight bezels and custom, just everything is just custom in it. And when you look at those things, you can start to understand, okay, I understand now why these custom car builders, granted, they have the name behind them, but why they're charging the amounts of money that they are. Because probably, typically $400,000 for a car build out of one of these really high end shops is not unusual. We'll just put it
Right. And to speak to that, I mean, you've had at SEMA, I think it was 2023 or 2024, I can't remember. Richard Rawlings, Gas Monkey Garage, they did this, I think it was a 68 Chevy C10 pickup truck, and that had a billet grill in it that was made by Titans of CNC. I forget what the numbers were on that. It was like a $20,000 or $30,000 grill. And somebody just asked to have one of those quoted. It was on one of the machining groups or C10 groups, something that I was on Facebook. They got quoted like 12 grand to have this grill made, and they posted, they're like, some shop just quoted me 12 grand to get this made. I feel like that's ridiculous. And I had all sorts of people tag me because they wanted my input on it. And I think they just wanted me to kind of stir the pot and say something a little bit risque or aggressive. And I did. I jumped on there and I was like, 12 grand. Yes, that's expensive, but everything that goes into the back end of the programming, the design, the material. And I said, you also need to understand that's a couple grand in material. And when that goes into the machine, if somebody makes a mistake on that, they're not going to weld it. They're not going to call the client and be like, hey, you're going to have to buy a second piece of material. If they scrap it, the shop's going to eat that, but they still need to produce the part that was ordered. Something that size, I would imagine you're taking a down payment on. The risk versus reward there is pretty low considering it's going to be a one-off. And I tried to explain that whole thing, and the guy just didn't want to hear it. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here and argue with it. That's just the world that we're in. Like, if you want custom stuff, especially something large like that, a grill for a truck, it's not cheap. He didn't want to hear that he was the one that was crazy for thinking that the quote was absurd. You're not going to please everybody. And that's another thing that I have kind of learned with some of these custom jobs is have a pretty good track record with people being happy with what they ask for and what they receive. Every now and then you're going to have somebody that's going to complain, and you got to figure out how to make them happy, how to make them right. And you might not get work from them again, but sometimes clients are meant to be a one-time deal. Let them take their problems and their drama somewhere else if it's all about what it's going to be worth to you down the road.
It's definitely a challenge to navigate, and it doesn't only exist in the automobile world. It exists in nearly every aspect of every custom built industry. Anything that's custom made. It's very difficult to get people to distinguish why something that's custom is as expensive as it is relative to mass produced items.
That also goes for emergency work. I have some clients that they know that they can call me and say, hey, I need this and I need it tomorrow morning. But they also know that they're going to pay tomorrow morning prices for that. Whereas sometimes I'll get somebody that's like, hey, I need this and I need it tomorrow. I'm like, okay. this is what that's going to cost you. And they're like, well, that's ridiculous. Okay, well, it's 7:45 on a Wednesday night. I have to make sure that I have the material, and until you get me dimensions, I get it drawn, modeled, programmed, and into the machine and out of the machine. It's going to be 11 o'clock or midnight, and my time is worth something. Call somebody else that's going to get it to you tomorrow for less than 2 grand, and then call me back. And they never hang up the phone. They say, okay, yeah, whatever you need.
Do you know Kelly Russ? Do you follow him?
I do follow Kelly Russ. I was actually supposed to get dinner with him. He was coming up this way a couple weeks ago, but it didn't work out.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you should meet up with. If I'm ever in the area, I'm going to try to meet up with him too. But that's a big chunk of how he built his business. Is he does quick turnaround stuff. That's how you get the premium money for it.
Oh, no doubt.
Well, tell us about getting your machine.
Oh, man. So this is a good one. I had a brand before Pizza Boy Metalworks called Horsepower and Pizza. I still have the brand. I just don't do anything with it. And I'm kind of in the process of winding that down. Like, I'll keep the Instagram and the YouTube channel, but as far as like the website and podcast and everything goes, kind of winding it down because I haven't done much with it. But that was something that I built when I was living in Pittsburgh. When I moved to Pittsburgh, I didn't know anybody there. So I tried to get as involved in the car community as I could. And that was something that I just built a brand that we'd take to car shows, we'd sell merch. I learned a lot about business through that. I met a lot of good people through that in the automotive industry, especially. And there was a gentleman that I met who founded a motorsports brand who has since sold it to private equity and moved on, and good for him. I ran into him at an event in 2021, like once the world opened back up, and he came up to me. I didn't even know that he remembered me, to be honest, but he came up to me and he's like, hey man, I heard you left the city. Like, is everything good? You're good. Your family's good. I'm like, yeah, man, we're good. I just got a better job opportunity and I left. And he's like, all right, cool. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'm actually getting ready. I was going to buy a water jet. I said, this is what I'm going to buy. I'm going to go out on my own. And he's like, no, man, don't do that. He goes, I have this Super Mini 2 and a fourth and fifth axis indexer sitting in a storage unit. It's costing me money to sit there. It's clearly not making me any money. And I will make you a deal if you get it out of there. He's telling me what options are on this machine. He's telling me about the indexer. And I'm just running numbers in my head. I'm like, okay, that's probably like 100 grand, a little bit over 100 grand worth of stuff if I were to buy it new. So I'm like, well, I'll go look at it at least. And I mean, it was used, it was dirty, it was abused. For the type of work that I was doing at that point, it was all fab shop stuff that was, hey, drill a hole here, mill a slot here. Like, it didn't really matter that the machine was used and abused. So I was like, yeah, okay, shoot me a number. He's like, if you bring me $15,000, get it out of my storage unit. And I went, I think I can do that.
With the rotary tables?
Yes, that was with the fourth and fifth axis indexer.
Wow.
Which I still have. I have sold the machine, but I kept that stuff and I have no idea how to use it. But like I said, I'm working on that.
This is a different one than you have now.
Yes. So this machine, this was my first CNC machine. I had owned a Bridgeport before this. The Bridgeport was kind of a quick flip. I bought it as I was moving to Pittsburgh. My dad and I went to pick it up and it went to my dad's shop here that I work out of now. I bought that Bridgeport for $1,000 and I wired it in and never used it. And I think I sold it for 4 grand. So that was a quick $3,000 profit flip. I bought this Super Mini. My dad and I went and picked that up, got it off the trailer here, got it into the shop. I put it roughly where I wanted it. I ordered a big air compressor. I ordered a phase converter and very quickly realized that I did not even have enough 220 single phase to run the phase converter for it. And if I could have made it work, I probably wouldn't have had enough to run the air compressor for it. The company I was working for at the time, I was in a role where I was in the machine shop, but I had just taken over the machine shop in like a management role. And then not long after that, I was approached by the majority owner about buying some equity in the company to the tune of about 40%. And he knew that I bought all this. I had started to buy equipment to go out on my own. So he's like, yeah, just bring that up here and use it as leverage. So for the first 2 years or so that Pizza Boy was a thing, I was running my business out of another business. That Super Mini made me so much money on the side. And I mean, that was an agreement. Like, hey, my equipment will come here, but I'm going to do what I want with it on my time and I will pay for my material. And they're like, yep, that's fine.
Nice.
So that Super Mini made me a bunch of money, which I then turned into a 2003 Haas VF5. Miss that machine every day, but that machine also got delivered to that company. When that got delivered, they realized that if I left, I was taking both of those machines with me. So they promptly asked to buy me out of the VF5. I made a little bit of money on that deal, and that was my down payment on my TL1, which is my lathe that I have here at my house.
Mm-hmm.
I went with a TL1 because they will run single phase, and I knew that I could make it work in the home shop. And I have plans of upgrading the electricity here, but I haven't done anything yet because I need to see where I'm going to end up as far as if I'm going to get my own shop space or continue to work out of here, but that's to be determined. So that TL1, fun fact, is the first and only brand new anything that I have ever owned. I have never owned a new vehicle. I have never owned a new dirt bike. I have never owned a new house. That is the first brand new anything that I have ever owned. I'm very proud of it. Every now and then you can hit Haas at the right time and they will finance you at 0% if you put the right number down and take it out over the term that they give you. So that's basically free money as far as I'm concerned. And my payment on that is about half of what a truck payment would be, and it makes its monthly payment every time I turn the machine on. So kind of a no-brainer to do that. I love that lathe.
Those Haas TL lathes, they hold their value too. I bet you that thing is still worth a pretty good chunk of change if you needed to sell it.
Well, that was the thing is I bought that. It's a 2024. All of the 2021, 2022, 2023s that were coming up on all the resale websites were like 40 grand. And I think I paid 42.8 for that out the door.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a no-brainer to buy one that came with a warranty.
It's like a
versus-
Toyota pickup.
Right, exactly. And I mean, when I was in Pittsburgh doing all the big stuff, that was on a Haas TL3B. So that's why I was kind of partial to getting a TL series, because I knew what they were capable of. I knew that they were plenty rigid for the things that I was going to do, and it was just going to work. I got that TL1, and then last summer I decided I thought it was time for me to move on from the shop that I was working at, and I found this day job that I have now. And I went to put in my notice, and they're like, well, what are we doing about your machine that's here? And I said, well, you can either buy it like you keep telling me you want to, or it can go on a trailer and it can go to my shop until it gets sold. But let me know. And they decided to buy it. And I started telling all of my clients, anybody that knows me knows that I do nothing slow. Like when I was in college, I had a E46 323i, and it was dying. And I saw a Subaru BRZ, and I was like, man, I think I really want a BRZ. And it was 5 days between me saying I think I want a BRZ and having one in the driveway. So nothing happens slow around here. So I sold them this Super Mini 2, and I said, start telling all of my clients, I'm like, hey, I might be without a mill for like 6 months. Like, you guys got to give me some time to figure some things out. And, we made the agreement to sell this on like a Tuesday. I left that job at 3 o'clock on Thursday, and by 7:30 the same evening, I had this new mini mill on a trailer like an hour and a half from my house ready to come home, because that's just how things go for me sometimes. And now the mini mill that I have now, it's a 2011. My Super Mini was a 2010, but this machine came out of a it was like some union shop like an hour and a half from here, and it only ever made one part. Right now, my arsenal at the house is a TL1 and a mini mill. I have two really good machines that I trust. They hold size, they hold tolerance, they hold surface finish, and blessed to be where I'm at is how I feel.
Yeah, mini. Is that one a single phase? The mini mill?
Yes, that's why I went with that versus trying to keep the Super Mini that was already here and then ended up at that other shop anyway.
There's so many people that have started their machine shops with either a super mini or mini mills or even maybe a TM one, even the early like open bed style. They they really are perfect for the guy who's looking to start out. And now Haas even has that. I don't know if you saw that pocket mill. I haven't seen one in person yet. It's pretty dang small.
Yeah, the Pocket Mill came out right as I was trying to determine what I wanted to buy next. I was looking at the mini mills. I was looking at even like a Tormach, like 1500 MX. And then that Pocket Mill came out. Well, they advertised that it's $29,000, but till you option a tool changer and anything else to it, you're still like right around 60,000.
Yeah,
So
I
at that
noticed
point,
that.
you could buy like the most tricked out 1500 MX or tricked out mini mill, even if you buy it used. But no, I think the Pocket Mill is cool. I've toyed with the idea of buying a TM2P, like the newer one that's enclosed that has the tool changer and everything.
Hmm.
Because that would increase my X travel to like 40 inches, I think. So I don't know. There's ideas for down the road, but I'm not sure
What
entirely what I'm gonna do yet.
what are your thoughts on the Tormach? Have you played around with any of those yet?
I have not. I watch a lot of Saunders videos on his 1500 and it looks like a really good machine. I was just talking to somebody else on Instagram that has one and they love it. They seem like they've come a long way the last couple years. I know that they were always just kind of, at least in my head and the circle that I run with, they were always just kind of thought of as like hobbyist machines, but it seems like they're kind of stepping their game up and being like industry ready or production ready. So
Hmm.
that's kind of cool.
That's the appeal of like the MX series. They actually have servos and encoders and stuff, and they're not stepper motors. And they're actually down the street from me. There was a 1500 MX with a rotary table. It was like brand new. They were selling it for like 25 grand.
I think when I optioned the one out that I was looking at, 1500 MX, till I optioned everything that I wanted with it, with like the rotary and everything, I think it was like 82 grand. You were like
Wow.
Haas territory.
Yeah, that was, and it was, you could tell they bought it, and I don't even think they knew how to run it. It still had the plastic on the control.
Oh wow. 25 grand is a steal. I hope somebody picked that up and is making good money with it.
Somebody got it. Let's talk a little bit about social media. I mean, that obviously that's how I found you, and that's how you mentioned you do a lot of your marketing. What what do you really see yourself doing with your social media channel? Do you see yourself in a place where maybe you can try to get brand deals or something and maybe get paid through those kinds of channels and maybe not focus so much on getting paid for the work you do? How do you want to leverage your social media going forward?
I think that's the way that I'm, especially now, like I said, with having trouble with balancing everything. I think I'm going to take a step back from a lot of the, not all of it, but some of the job shop work that I've been taking on and focus on the video content side of things. I actually just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube like overnight or this morning. So that's kind of a big deal for
Yeah,
me because
congratulations, dude.
thank you, the Horsepower and Pizza channel that I started in like 2016 hasn't even hit 2,000 subscribers yet. And I started this channel in December of last year. If you're listening and you would like to go subscribe, I would appreciate that. One of the first videos I posted on the YouTube channel, it had like 2 or 3 subscribers at the time back in December. And I posted my long form video of building that steering wheel that I was talking about. And that video just hit 10,000 views. I think it did like 8,000 views in the first week that it was up. And that's kind of uncharted territory for me because everything that I had ever posted before was just kind of like, oh, it got 100 views, it got 500 views. Like 10,000 views on a long form video these days is pretty good, I feel, especially for a channel as small as mine. I've been posting one YouTube short a day, and I posted on TikTok, I posted on Instagram, which posts it to Facebook. I've been keeping up with that one a day, and things have been growing pretty good. I had a video pop off I had mentioned a couple weeks ago talking about my marketing strategy. And I got on TikTok the one morning and I had a message request from Brunt Boots. And they're like, hey man, we love your content. We'd love to send you a pair of boots if you'd like to try them. And I was like, I had to go to their page to make sure this wasn't just like some spam account using like their logo and stuff to, try to get my mailing address or info or something. And no, it was Brunt Boots. So sorry I doubted you, Brunt, but thank you for the boots. Big fan. I've been wearing their boots for like 2 years, so it was time for a refresh pair, and they came through a
I saw
day or
your
two
new boot
later.
goofing.
My new boot goofing video. You like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I saw that.
So I got on Instagram like 2 or 3 days later, and I had a message request from Anchor Lube. And Anchor Lube, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's like this green, I don't even know. It's like gelatinous is how I would describe it, but it's a tapping cutting fluid. You can use it for tapping, punching, turning, drilling, anything. And I've seen people use it for years. I've never personally used it. It's been on my list of things to buy for like, I don't know, 6 months, and I just keep forgetting to order it. And they
Mhm.
reached out. They're like, hey, we see that you make a lot of machining videos. We'd love to send you some product to use. And I'm like, absolutely. I would love that. And I told them that, like, hey, you've been on my list of things to try, and I just haven't gotten there yet. So they sent stuff out, and that came the other day. That was actually the video I posted today, I guess. I used it for the first time yesterday, and it works really well. So, um, but yeah, I will not promote a product that I wouldn't spend my own money on, is kind of how I approach the brand deal side of things. I've been approached by all sorts of different companies like, hey, put this product in your video. And I'm like, it doesn't really fit what I'm doing. It's not something that I would use or buy. My channels are small. So when they're like, here, we'll give you this product to use, I'm selective on the brands that I will work with, but I'm open to hearing people out anyway. I really enjoy the video production side of things. And I have a lot of really good ideas for products and for projects that I want to do for myself personally. So I think I'm going to start focusing on spending some time on the computer and in the shop making those things, because I think if I document them the same way that I documented the steering wheel build, I think they will do fairly well. And if I get inquiries about work through that or requests for quotes or however that goes, I mean, it's all marketing, and that's what it comes down to. The goal is to kind of try to leverage the social media into getting things that I would pay for without having to pay for them. Whether
Yeah.
that turns into a full-time gig or not, I'm not sure, but
I think
yeah,
it's completely possible for those that kind of pay attention to the media space. Do you know who Gary Vanderchuck is?
I do.
That's kind of been one of his big hypes lately. He talks about social selling a lot. And apparently, social selling is something that's already being leveraged substantially in other countries. And just like you said, the value of social selling is that when a creator like you comes along, and just like you were saying, they make a stand and they say, hey, I'm not going to sell something that I wouldn't personally use. I'm not going to sell something I wouldn't believe in, or I don't like, or I disagree with the values of the company. That gives you strength as a seller and makes companies that do have products that you use more enticed to come and sell with you. So I think a lot of what Gary Vee talks about moving forward about how social selling is going to be critically important moving forward. In the next 2 or 3 years, some overly produced, spectacular ad video is going to be so cheap to produce with AI that people are going to become numb to it. And the only thing that's going to actually sell things in the future is somebody like a trustworthy face behind a product, not necessarily an overly polished ad. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I completely agree with that.
So it's moving forward. It's going to become an important thing. And I I think it's completely commendable to want to continue to do your projects, but find a space where you can also make a wage doing social selling.
I like the video production side of things, and it seems to the main thing I can say here for anybody who may be listening that may want to start posting their own videos, just do it. You know, there's a lot of trolls on the internet. There's a lot of people that are gonna just try and stir negativity, and you see it all the time. But that was something that held me back for a long time, was like, oh, I don't want to argue with anybody. Or you don't have to post your content because you never know what's going to happen. I posted my video about my marketing strategy, like I said, 2 3 weeks ago, and I was just kind of like, yep, this is what I do, these are the parts that I'm making because of it, and the guy's actually going to come pick them up like next week or whatever. I made the video, it took like a minute and a half, and the next time I opened my phone it had like 20,000 views, and I had 400 or 500 new subscribers. Until it was all said and done, I mean, that video popped off for like a week and a half, and I went from 2,200 followers to 42 or 40, yeah, I think 4,200 followers in like a week and a half. So it all but
Wow.
doubled the size of my reach on Instagram. And I've gotten so many good messages and RFQs and stuff because of it. And, you know, whether any of those RFQs turn into accepted quotes and work is to be determined. But, you know, you got to, if you want to grow, you got to put yourself out there in front of people. Social media is not for everyone. I'm enjoying it a lot more as a creator than I am as using it for entertainment. There's people on both sides of it. Post your content, somebody's going to watch it. You don't know until you try, and you need to continue to post to continue to grow is the thing. It was one of those things where it beat me down for a long time because like I'd post and I'd be like, man, I know I'm doing cool stuff, but nobody sees it. And you know, you just got to kind of keep at it, and it'll find a groove at some point, and it'll just keep moving from there.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. One video that really impacted me that you made, and it's such a weird video to stand out to me, but you made this video and you were making a part for some person in particular, and you started the whole video out. You said this video is for so and so, so if you're not so and so, just scroll on. Something in my caveman brain said, oh hell no, he's not going to tell me what to do. So I sat there and watched that entire video. It was very clever. I
Yeah,
don't know
that,
if you
that
did that
video
on
did pretty
purpose.
well.
Yeah,
No, I
that was a good one.
so that's actually a local guy to me. I did a lot of their work when I was at my previous employer, and they just kind of started bringing work to me. I didn't solicit them for work. They just started calling me instead of calling them, and it's always little easy stuff like that. Like, hey, can you put a larger bore in this fan hub? They're a electric motor repair shop,
Hmm.
and the guy's name is Jeremy Jones, and I know that he follows me on TikTok because every now and then he'll comment something like off the wall, or like he'll just, you can catch him in my comments almost. I don't want to say every video, but you catch him from time to time, and he's always saying something funny. So I was like, oh, we're gonna catch him. I'm gonna make sure he sees this video.
That's
So I
funny.
posted that, and I posted it only because like I started doing the math and everything before I programmed it, and I knew that I wanted to leave 20 thousandths out of the bore just to make sure that it held size because I wasn't sure what material that was. And it was 1.675 was like the semi-finished diameter, and he makes 6'7" jokes. I don't understand the whole 6'7" trend thing.
Oh,
But every
okay.
time I go into his shop, he's making like 6'7" jokes. So when I knew that it was going to be a 1.675, I'm like, all right, we're just going to make him a video here. Well, I called him out like full legal name to start the video, and everybody else thought it was hilarious. I got really good views and really good retention on that video. He didn't see it for like 2 weeks. I
So
went
the
to drop
person it
something
was
off
intent
like a week and a half later. Yeah, he didn't see it for like 2 weeks because I went in to drop something off. I was like, "Oh, did you like your video?" And he's like, "What?" I was like, "I made you a video on TikTok." He's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to go look." Well, he couldn't find it because it had been posted so long ago that I had to like find it and send it to him. And then he commented something on it. I don't remember. It was something to the effect of 6-7, but
That's funny.
I got a lot of comments, like you said, like the caveman brain thing. There were a lot of comments like, "Well, I'm not Jeremy Jones, but you're not going to tell me not to watch this," or something like that.
Yeah.
So it
I'll be
worked.
damned. I'll be damned if he tells me what to do. Quick fire round. So what's been your favorite machine that you've ran up to this point?
You know, I think my current mini mill that I have is probably my favorite because it is, while it's a mini mill and it's not quite as rigid as like some of the VF series mills from Haas, that mini mill holds tolerance better than any mill that I've owned for sure, but better than any mill that I've run that I can remember. It just does what you ask it to. And I think I like that a lot just because I don't have to worry about it. Like when I set it up and press start and go into the house, I don't have to sit there and babysit it. That's definitely my favorite that I've run, at least in recent memory. Favorite project? Oh, that's a good one. That's gonna make me. I've done a lot of really cool stuff recently. There's a drift team by me that goes by the name of Hayes. All of their cars are purple. They drive a lot of stuff on the East Coast and in the Midwest, but um, I've been doing a lot of stuff for them. That custom throttle body adapter that I did last weekend was for him, and I've done some little like PCV fittings, and it's not anything crazy impressive or crazy complicated, but they're cool little products and they look really nice when they're done. I'm working on some distributor block off plates or something. They have all sorts of old Nissan stuff. I love old Nissan stuff, so I'm just happy to be involved. But the distributor block off plates that I'll have them posted here probably in the next 2 weeks or so, but they're branded like with his HDT, which is Hayes Drift Team, and they look like the old like single cam valve covers from like a KA24E, I guess it would be. But just little stuff like that. I like being able to provide somebody with branded products and high quality American made product at that. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's probably my favorite one recently that I can remember.
So when you say old Nissan, are we talking like 240Z old? Are we talking like 240
Um,
SXs and
I like all of the old stuff, like 240Z and like old Datsun stuff. I love. We have a buddy that's building an LS3 tube chassis. What's the little truck? 610 maybe? 520? I can't remember if it's 520 or a 610, but he's building a tube chassis LS swap. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say on that, but I'll have more content on that moving forward, I'm sure. Like I like the old Datsun stuff, but yeah, like 240SX, like late 80s, early 90s. I like S13s, S14s. I'd love to have an S15, I think. I like how they look. I've never driven one, so
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not really a Japanese car guy. I know you and I discussed that a little bit on the phone yesterday. I'm big BMW, big Porsche nerd, and I don't know, somehow I just got sucked into the 90s Nissan stuff in the last like 2 years or so.
Yeah, I've had my I feel like I've had my rounds with everything. Actually, with everything except Japanese cars. I've never let me think about it. I've never really owned a Japanese. Well, I owned a Mazda Miata for a little bit because I was just like, I want to drive one of these. So I bought one and drove it around for like a summer and then got rid of it. I think that was it.
No, that's cool. Miatas are fun. I've never owned one, but they seem to be I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about them unless they're too tall for it. That's like the only complaint I've ever heard.
You don't really brag about driving a Miata, but
I didn't know if you'd catch the reference when you were like, "Oh yeah, I got a Mazda Miata." I was gonna the Family Guy reference where Peter's like, "That's not a sports car."
oh yeah. I think you cut out when you said that, but yeah, for
Hey man,
sure.
they have a racing series. They have the MX-5 Cup. It's a full Mazda spec racing series. If you have a spec racing series, you are a sports car. I'm sorry, that's how that argument works.
Well, that's actually why I bought that car because I did for a few minutes think I was gonna. I bought like started collecting which oddly enough, stock Mazda hardtop for Miata is probably about as expensive as a Miata, at least once upon a time. I don't know
Oh
if
no,
it's
you're
still
not
that way.
kidding. I'm well aware. I got a lot of friends that have Miatas. I got friends that have hardtops for their E36 convertibles, and same thing. The hardtop is worth as much, if not more, than the car.
It's crazy.
It's insane. Tool I can't live without. When I read through this earlier, I was like, I don't have an answer for that. Yes, I do. I do not have a probe on my mill, so I have a Heimer 3D sensor,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
that tool has saved me so much setup time. I mean, it's still not a Renishaw probe, but it is as close as you can get without having a Renishaw probe. And that tool alone, I think it was $300. And when I bought it, it was like a birthday present to myself like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, man, I'm a real cheap guy. I don't like to spend more money than I have to. And that was kind of like a splurge for me. It paid for itself probably 10 times over in the amount of time that it has saved me in the last 2 years.
They're pretty nice. I've never
It's
had
very
one,
nice.
but I see other people that have them and
I
I'm like, "Oh, that's
I
those are
highly
sweet."
recommend. I'm actually going to go make a video about that now that you brought that up, because man, is that tool great.
Well, there you go. Social shopping. See if you can get them to sponsor you.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Dream machine purchase.
Um, if we're talking like no budget, money's no object, I can have it delivered next week. I'm probably going to get a new VF5 with a fourth and fifth axis trunnion in it with the probe and high speed machining and all of that fun jazz. Really liked my VF5. I fear if I were to purchase something any larger than that, you know how the problem goes. When I had my VF5 had 50 inches of X travel. You know how it goes. Every time you buy a large machine, you still somehow end up with work that is too large for said machine.
Yeah.
So I feel like VF5, VF6 is probably as big as I would ever want to go, because I don't want to end up taking on work that's too large for that yet. But I miss having those gravels in a vertical mill. But the VF5, VF6, somewhere in there, VF4, I don't know. I loved that VF5. I'd love to have a new one. I would love to have high speed machining, and that's big enough. Like I said, you put the fourth and fifth axis trunnion in it, then I don't have to go buy like a UMC 500 or 750. Or like I said, I don't have the fourth and fifth axis knowledge at this point, but it's definitely something that I'm looking to step into in the future. And I think it was Gene Haas himself said every shop should have a VF2, and I agree to that. But I think every shop should also, like, if you're going to go bigger than a VF2, just go VF5 and be done with it.
Do you follow DME Dynamic Machine on Instagram?
I believe I do.
He's got a VF4 with a fifth axis trunnion, and then he's got a V. It might be a VF5. He's got two Hawses, both with five axis trunnions, and then he's got a Morisiki NL 1500.
He's got a good plethora of machinery there. Are you familiar with Pat at Old Boys?
Yes, I am familiar with him. I've never like chatted with him or anything.
You should get him on here. I'm just gonna kind of pitch that myself. Pat is a character, but he's got a VF2 and a VF4 packed into his two-car garage at his house.
Oh,
They sit like perpendicular to one another. The side of one of them touches the front face of the other one. Like it's set up like a cell, but like he can probably run both controllers, like one with his left hand, one with his right hand. Everything is so tight. When he moved them into his garage, the VF4, I think there was like a 16th of an inch of clearance to get it in the garage door, like height wise.
Wow.
He does some really, really nice work. He does a lot of like custom automotive stuff. He does a lot of stuff, but his oh, I know. Here, I'll do your social selling. He makes the probe halos. So if you have a Renishaw probe, he makes a protection piece for it. So you smash that instead of like when you hit the probe, it alarms out the probe, or you hit the halo, it alarms out the probe versus smashing the probe. And he's done really well with selling those. So that's my shameless plug for Pat at Old Boys Fabrication. But
Yeah, and that's where I
he's
know
got
him
some
from.
good story. He's been very helpful. I should have said this earlier in the episode. He has been very helpful and instrumental in not just encouraging me to do things. He just wants everybody around him to grow, I think. And like it was he had no there was no skin in the game for him to teach me something to help me go about learning and growing my own business. So
That's awesome. There's enough for everybody in this industry. There really is. I think
for
we're
sure.
turning the tide. I've been in this industry for well over 2 decades. And historically speaking, there was a lot of protective and, you go work in a shop and some old timer wouldn't want to teach you how to do his job because he was worried about his job security. And I really hope that a lot of the community that's getting built around the social media and machining space is, at least my contribution to the extent that I can contribute to it is to bring value to everybody and just share the information because there's plenty for everybody.
Right. And I think that's a very good point. I mean, I was victim to that early in my career. There were old guys that didn't want to help or didn't want to teach, or they'd purposely tell you the wrong thing and then you'd scrap apart. And there's no place for that in industry. You're making an ass out of everybody around you, and you're costing the company money and costing customers lead time at that point. But at what cost? You're just trying to flex that, well, I've been doing this for 40 years. Yeah, well, I'll be doing it for 40 years after you're dead. So I don't know. I try to help anybody that I can. I've had a lot of really good messages recently on Instagram about like, oh, well, this is something that I want to do. How can I like go out on my own? And I'm like, look, I can do the best I can to explain this to you, and you can ask me any questions you want, but I'm just telling you what worked for me. Like it's not a one size fits all answer. And again, I think that comes back to the addiction to problem solving, is that you got to pick what works for you and just go after it.
Well, close it out. Go ahead and let the audience know where people can find you.
I am at Pizza Boy Metalworks on pretty much every platform, I think. Yeah, I mean, drop me a follow, shoot me a message. Like I said, I'm trying to take a step back from being on my phone nonstop, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I have a website, www.pizzaboymetalworks.com. It's not entirely set up yet, but it is, like, the store and everything's not set up, but there's a landing page. If you need anything quoted, email pizzaboymetalworks@gmail.com. Yeah, that's that.
Got any final thoughts? Words of wisdom?
Go for it. Whatever it is that you want to do, whatever you want exists. You need to understand that, and there's nothing that's impossible. On a less lighthearted note, check on your friends. Now we're ending winter and getting into spring, thankfully, but I know winter is a really hard time for a lot of people, and there's people that struggle that you'd never know that they're struggling. Very talented BMW guy and builder, Julian Danino. He was actually a very close friend of mine. I'm not sure if you were familiar with Julian or not. He was big on Instagram and YouTube, but Julian was a very close friend of mine. I'm not really sure the details surrounding anything, but Julian left us last summer, and that was a shock to a lot of people. And, you know, it's one of those things that just check on your friends, check on, just even if you're just going to shoot them a text and say, hey, what's up? I hope you're having a good day. And, you know, people are getting more and more honest in today's day and age. You might shoot them a text and say, hey, I hope you're having a good day. And they might send you a text back that says, hey, I'm really not, but thank you for thinking of me. That's a real important one to me. So
No,
that's what I'll leave you guys with.
that is great advice, especially in this world where it's just so easy to get wrapped up and lost in social media, right? We're both spending a
Right.
good chunk of this episode talking about social media, but it's also important to maintain a relationship with your friends and check on them. And no, that's great advice, and I'm sorry for that loss.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on here. I appreciate the hospitality and the conversation. And, you know, same goes to you. If there's anything that I can do for you, you have my cell number. You have every other way to get in contact with me, and be real happy to help you out any way that I can, network you in with anybody that I can. I mean, you're pretty well networked yourself, so you probably have better contacts than I do. But anything I can do for you, Matt, I appreciate the time, and it would be interesting. I'd like to come back on here maybe 3-5 years down the road and see where we're at then. But
Yeah, well, Bailey, we will be following your journey. I will for sure.
I
And
appreciate
I'd
that.
love to have you back on. So until then, thanks
I
for joining
appreciate
the
that.
podcast.
Yes, sir.